But this was the first time we saw Paige really get guarded. This is where we saw what is going to happen in year 2. This is the scout report that needs to be out there on Paige Bueckers once the Dallas Wings get good, because Dallas Wings are going to get good at some stage in her career. This was the game where I'm like, okay, we can shut up that. We can shut.
However, all right, this is crazy. Officially, the charade is over. There have been exposed false prophets. On national television, the WNBA's last-ditch effort to produce the next superstar was totally demolished. The chosen one who was meant to continue the tradition was Paige Bueckers, the media darling and the so-called next Caitlin Clark. Well, the Seattle Storm just sent her a reality check via expedited shipment. It wasn't only a wake-up call, people. It was a complete demolition.
Of one Paige Bueckers. Oh, she's better than Caitlin Clark. I mean, stab me in the eye with a spoon, for Christ's sakes. Wow. So that's a thing right now. Last night, Paige Bueckers dropped 44 points. And we're going to look at a video that just dissects and exposes a lot of that shit. Let me tell you. It exposes a lot of stuff involving Paige Bueckers getting special treatment on the court.
The idea that Paige Bueckers was the heir apparent to Caitlin Clark's kingdom has been relentlessly pushed upon us for months. By portraying her as the savior of women's basketball and smashing Clark's records more quickly than a teenager smashes an iPhone screen, the media aggressively promoted this notion. She even became the player who reached 200 points and 50 assists the quickest, surpassing Clark by 1 game in just 11 games. Her efficiency, poise, and analytical approach to the game were all highlighted in the headlines. She was even ranked 13th in ESPN's mid-season rankings. Everyone was purchasing tickets for the Paige Bueckers experience, and the hype train was moving at full speed. The problem with hype, though, is this. Up until it encounters harsh reality, it's all just hot air. And there is a name for reality. Storm defense in Seattle.
Diva of Dump Divas Kat Engelbert is breathing a sigh of relief. Her pretend friends in the mainstream media, they are trying to crown a new star. If the media has it their way, this could potentially be the new face of pretend basketball. And it's not just the woke media. There are even some in conservative media who are voluntarily biting into the shit sandwich. Headline at Outkick. No, Caitlin, no problem. Paige Bueckers can save the WNBA season.
So August 22nd, 2025, discounts. Following her historic 44-point explosion against the Los Angeles Sparks, Paige Bueckers entered Seattle on the night her legend officially died, most likely anticipating that her coronation celebration would continue. Rather, she walked right into a buzzsaw that revealed every fault in her ostensibly perfect game.
It's a little bit different, huh? It's a little bit different out here when you get Caitlin Clark treatment. It ain't so easy peasy getting to play one-on-one, getting to just do your thing, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. Paige Bueckers got the Caitlin Clark treatment for 1 game, and it...
11 points, that's how the subsequent Caitlin Clark handled real WNBA-level defense. Not 11 points in the first quarter or half, but 11 points during the game on a pitiful 2 for 111 field goal, 0 assists, and 2 rebounds. Her stat sheet resembled a participation trophy at a kids' league game more than a professional performance. Before the game, Noah Quinn, the Storm's defensive coordinator, said it just as he intended. It was in a number of different ways after scoring 40 for the other night. The princess's ability to endure the Caitlin Clark treatment will be tested. Additionally, spoiler alert, she was unable to.
She went off in a game against the Los Angeles Sparks, scoring 44 points, but the craziest part about that was her shooting percentage. She shot over 80% from the field, and I tweeted about that, and I was like, that's actually insane. Give props where they are due. Shooting over 80%, scoring 44 points is actually insane. But with this game, like Paige Bueckers she put on a masterclass in scoring. And I think with that, these are some big numbers, and those are some props that need.
This is when the narrative truly becomes fascinating, people, if you're enjoying it. Because let's talk about what the true next-level superstar has been going through this season while Paige Bueckers was getting her reality check in Seattle. The player who truly revolutionized women's basketball, Caitlin Clark, has been absorbing hits that would give NFL linebackers victories. The figures are honest. The 2024 WNBA season saw Caitlin Clark receive 17% of all egregious fouls. Basketball isn't that. That is the intended practice.
Before the game, you said it's going to be important to be physical with like Paige Bueckers. Can you talk about the defensive game plan for Dallas and like how your team was able to hold them to their fewest points of the season?
Yeah, it started, with our attention to detail with Paige. I thought, Slim was very physical, stayed in her space, and the actions that we guarded her in, we were very aggressive, showed multiple bodies, and kind of, made her hesitant to use the ball screen a little bit. I thought we rotated well. And everyone who ended up being on Paige from E on down, I thought we were very...
Consider it. 80% of those egregious fouls against Clark were committed by the Chicago Sky alone. Paige Bueckers, meanwhile, has been treated like a kid, gliding through games as if she were participating in a collegiate scrimmage. Bueckers crumbled more quickly than a lawn chair in a hurricane when she was ultimately subjected to the same muscular, aggressive defense that Clark faces every night. They made it their goal to physically abuse her, to challenge every shot, and to make her earn every possession throughout the storm. And what took place? Her game vanished entirely.
Paige Bueckers got Caitlin Clark treatment for the first time in her career, and it looked bad. It looked real bad. Everybody was running around. Yeah, she was cooking 44 points versus the Sparks. They didn't play a lick of defense, letting this girl play one-on-one basketball in every area of the floor, letting her post up in the mid-range area one-on-one. Now, I'm giving credit. She's a bucket in one-on-one, especially from that mid-range, from the free throw line down area. But this is the first time we watch teams actively be persistent about taking away her spots and what she...
The media praised Bueckers' shooting efficiency, highlighting her 47.4% field goal percentage, as opposed to Clark's 41.7% from her rookie campaign. They presented this as indisputable proof that Bueckers was more refined and prepared for the workplace. However, they casually overlooked this. While being defended as if she had a target on her back, Clark was taking the hardest shots in the league. Soft defense and easy looks were the cornerstones of Bueckers' impressive shooting percentages. Those statistics collapsed like a house of cards in a tornado the instant Seattle made the decision to protect her like the superstar she was purported to be. Out of 11 attempts, 2 field goals were made. Efficiency isn't that. Exposure is what that is. Clark, meantime, has been avoiding defenders who are actively attempting to harm her. She has dealt with physical domination as a defensive tactic and been called for egregious fouls that weren't even basketball plays. Additionally, she continues to post numbers that give the impression that Bueckers' stat sheet is still in its early stages.
She got doubled. And do you want to know what she did as soon as she got blitzed in doubles? She passed. Paige Bueckers, look, she played decent amount early in the game. The game was kind of over and she got subbed out. Paige Bueckers shot 7 times.
Let's face it head-on about what we saw on August 22nd. Paige Bueckers crumbled after getting a small taste of what Caitlin Clark deals with every night. The opposition team chose to make her struggle for her shots in one game and put her under real defensive pressure in another. All of a sudden, Caitlin Clark appeared more like the player who will be benched next. The media has been promoting this athlete as being better than Clark in every manner imaginable. Supposedly more fundamentally sound and intellectual. The same player who, after half a season, commentators were prepared to declare her the superior player since she broke Clark's records with such ease. However, Bueckers literally demonstrated that she is not suited for the limelight that Clark has been lugging around since day one when the chips were down. The physical chess match that occurs when teams devise a strategy to stop you is not something she is prepared for. She is undoubtedly unprepared for the kind of abuse that Clark endures while continuing to put on performances that are remembered for their historical significance.
Paige Bueckers, let me ask you this. How did it feel to be blitzed and played 94 feet before you even get a chance to bring the ball up court like your name was Caitlin Clark, aka my precious Cece? You didn't like that, huh? You hear me? You out there was looking like you was about to cry. Yeah, so what do your fans have to say now? Excuse me, where are you Paige Bueckers fans at? That's y'all MVP and face of the league, right? She's boring. She's not good enough. She gets special treatment. But understand, she kept getting blitz after blitz after blitz after.
Let's examine some actual data that settle this entire controversy while we're discussing constructed narratives. Caitlin Clark averaged 19 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game during her rookie campaign, all the while being the league's most targeted player. During her first campaign, Paige Bueckers averaged 19.7 points, 5.3 assists, and 4.1 rebounds per game, while receiving the WNBA's most lenient defensive treatment. Clark accomplished this despite receiving flagrant fouls twice as frequently as any other player. Coaches essentially instructed their players to use physical contact with her as their main defensive tactic, and Clark did it. When Clark was confronted with plays that her own coach deemed improper, she did it. Teams that treated her like she was made of glass were the ones against whom Bueckers did it. She abruptly disappeared from the game when one side chose to change the course of events and protect her like the superstar she was purported to be.
I really want to look up how the WNBA played against Caitlin Clark in terms of the defensive strategy, in terms of the other basketball teams around the WNBA. What they did against Caitlin Clark versus how they've handled Paige this year. Everybody wants to act like Paige is so much better than Caitlin. They're certainly not playing defense on Paige the way they played on Caitlin. They're certainly not attacking her with unnecessary fouls the way they attacked Caitlin with unnecessary fouls last year. So in the 2024 season, there were 35 flagrant fouls called. Caitlin Clark received 17% of the entire season's flagrant fouls, 17%. And we've seen all the injuries, we've seen all the fights, the MMA fights that the WNBA players have gotten into this year. There haven't been 35 flagrant fouls called.
Paige Bueckers wasn't the only person defeated by the Storm. They produced a template that each team ought to review. With vital assistance from Erica Wheeler, Gabby Williams, and Skylar Diggins, Brittany Sykes assumed key defensive responsibilities. They denied Walkers the easy looks she had been enjoying all season long, forced her to battle for every possession, and fought every shot. Not only will the primary defender have to be on her, but our second and third layers of defense will also need to be locked into the actions that she receives, Storm coach Noah Quinn clarified. She just couldn't take it when they treated her like a celebrity. Since her first day in the league, Caitlin Clark has had to cope with this degree of defensive scrutiny. In an effort to stop her, teams have started using several defenders on her, giving her severe fouls, and doing anything less drastic than outright assault. As she continues to revise the record books, her injury history will now, unavoidably, be brought up by Bueckers supporters as a justification for her performance. They will discuss her time away from the game, her torn ACL, and how she's still getting used to her rhythm. However, that's precisely the point. Clark never had the luxury of justifications. When Clark joined the WNBA, she instantly rose to the top of the public enemy list. From day one, she was subjected to the most intense defensive tactics, the most aggressive play, and the greatest scrutiny. There was no grace period for her. She wasn't given simple games to boost her self-esteem. She looked like a Hall of Famer after being tossed into the fire. For the most of her freshman season, Bueckers received special care, and she folds the instant she encounters real hardship. That isn't what a superstar is known for. That characterizes a player who is inflated by a hype machine that disregarded the facts.
He was minus 17 on the floor. She had 0 assists and 11 points. 0 assists. 0 assists. That's mental. That's mental for a player that they were trying to say was better than Caitlin Clark. And I'm not even going to say, oh yeah, the points are everything. Points aren't everything at the end of the day. Assists aren't everything. Like, all of these individual stats aren't everything. It was just the fact that she literally, how many blitzes did the Indiana or how many open shots did the Indiana Fever get off a Caitlin Clark blitz? And albeit it's very different.
This is the most illuminating aspect of the Paige Bueckers experiment. The Dallas Wings remain a catastrophe despite all the media attention, the contrived records, and the softball treatment from rival defenders. They are out of the running for the playoffs due to their 928 season record. They appear to have squandered the first pick on Fool's Gold. Contrast that with Caitlin Clark's contributions to the Indiana Fever. She transformed a team that was among the league's poorest into a must-watch TV show. For the first time in years, she made the WNBA relevant to casual sports fans, broke viewing records, and packed arenas. She raised the league's profile overall in addition to improving her team's record. Even in a season when everyone was ostensibly giving her the benefit of the doubt, Bueckers are unable to win games. What occurs if teams begin treating her as Caitlin Clark each and every night? If August 22nd is any guide, it will be a protracted and agonizing lesson in what true superstardom looks like.
Part of player like Paige, it's not just relying on, your guards, whoever has the main matchup, but it becomes a team picture and understanding, rotations on the ball, off the ball. And I think the other thing that we did, early on, we rebounded decently out of it. We didn't give up too many. I think it was 12-second chance points at the half, but not a lot of deflating possessions after having a lot of deflections and things like that.
Seeing the media desperately attempt to create a rivalry that doesn't exist has been the most annoying aspect of this whole charade. They have been attempting to persuade us for months that Paige Bueckers was not only on par with Caitlin Clark, but better. They made reference to shooting percentages while utterly disregarding the background. They emphasized efficiency metrics while ignoring the absurd amount of defensive focus each player was subjected to. In their mid-season rankings, ESPN even placed the Bucks in 13th place. Even though Clark is under a lot more physical strain, he sits in a higher position. The story was established. The more complete player, the more promising prospect, and the legitimate heir to Clark's reign was Bueckers. But all of that was shown to be nothing more than media manipulation in a single game versus real defense. On national television, everyone finally saw the Emperor without clothing. This is the hard truth that the WNBA and its media partners must acknowledge. The next Caitlin Clark does not exist. Clark is more than just a fantastic athlete. She is a multi-generational talent who revolutionized the sport. In women's basketball, she is the equivalent of Tiger Woods, the player who popularized the game and made it accessible to a wider population.
How many assists did she have? Not enough. But if her name was Caitlin Clark, I bet she would have had at least 9 to 10 assists. You hear me? Because she's more than just a scorer. You hear me? Unlike Paige Bueckers, she's only a scorer. She's not dynamic. She's boring. You hear me? Clearly she fits the narrative, but she can't handle being double team or triple team. She was out there looking like a...
The next Caitlin Clark is not Paige Bueckers. She is just another gifted athlete who fell victim to a publicity industry desperate to create the next big thing. She completely collapsed under the strain when she eventually encountered the same obstacles that Clark faces every night. Even while the WNBA may continue to support pretenders, August 22nd, 2025 will go down in history as the night reality crashed into their contrived narrative. After receiving a reality check, Paige Bueckers' shooting percentage versus Seattle increased. The player who improved not just her own skill set but the sport as a whole, Caitlin Clark, is still regarded as the best. The others are merely competing for second place. And from what we observed in Seattle, some people aren't even eligible for that. The agenda is now public knowledge. The fabricated excitement has subsided. And who will be the next Caitlin Clark isn't the main question at hand. The question is whether anyone will ever be able to match her.
Did you just say Paige Bueckers will save the WNBA season? This season? The same Paige Bueckers that's dating Elmer Fudd? The same Paige that plays in front of empty civic centers for the Dallas Wankers? You expect me to believe she is going to save the WNBA season? She can't even sell out home games. Matter of fact, she doesn't come anywhere close to selling out games. The Wankers rank near the bottom of the league in attendance.